On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Dame Maggie Smith, one of the most celebrated actresses of the 20th and 21st centuries, passed away peacefully at the age of 89, leaving behind a legacy defined by grace, resilience, and unmatched talent. Her death, though natural, resonated as a poignant reminder of the inevitable passing of an era in British theater and cinema. For decades, Smith's career had spanned Shakespearean stages, acclaimed film roles, and television performances that reached global audiences, and her passing marked the loss of a figure who embodied both tradition and adaptability in the performing arts. The circumstances of her death reflected not only the natural progression of life, but also the cultural challenges of how societies reckon with the disappearance of icons who seemed timeless. Unlike the violent or scandal-marked deaths that sometimes define celebrity narratives, Smith's passing underscored the value of longevity, discipline, and quiet dedication to her craft. This natural end also allowed for reflection on her entire body of work, free from the overshadowing of controversy, reinforcing her image as a consummate professional whose artistry stood above transient fame. The immediate consequence of her passing was a wave of tributes across the world of theater and film. Colleagues, critics, and audiences alike recognized not just her most famous roles, Professor Minerva McGonagall in the Harry Potter series or the acerbic Dowager Countess in Downton Abbey, but also her deep roots in the Royal National Theatre and the West End. These tributes revealed how deeply she had influenced generations of performers and how her characters had provided cultural touchstones for audiences worldwide. In Britain especially, her death was felt as the closing of a chapter in national identity, as she was often considered a cultural treasure whose work embodied wit, resilience, and elegance. Her death amplified her legend rather than diminished it. Like Laurence Olivier or John Gielgud before her, Smith's passing enshrined her within the pantheon of actors whose careers defined not just entertainment, but cultural memory itself. The retrospectives of her life and work highlighted how she bridged eras, moving seamlessly from Shakespearean stages to modern cinema, illustrating the adaptability of great art across changing times. Ultimately, the passing of Maggie Smith reminds us of humanity's ongoing struggle with mortality and memory. We immortalize such figures through preserved performances, biographies, tributes, and continued rewatching of their work. In Smith's case, her sharp humor, commanding presence, and nuanced portrayals will continue to live on, not just in film archives, but in the collective imagination of audiences. Her death, natural and dignified, reinforces the truth that while lives end, legacies endure, etched into culture, art, and the stories we pass forward. Sir Michael Gambon's death on September 27, 2023, at the age of 82, closed the curtain on a career that spanned more than 6 decades and left an indelible mark on stage and screen. He died peacefully in hospital from pneumonia, a natural end that reminded the public of life's fragility even for those who had come to seem larger than life. His passing echoed a broader generational shift, as audiences mourned not just a beloved actor, but also a cultural figure emblematic of a fading golden age of theater and film. Gambon was born in Dublin in 1940 and trained under Laurence Olivier, quickly establishing himself as one of Britain's finest stage actors before transitioning to television and film. His death was met with an immediate outpouring of tributes from actors, directors, and fans worldwide, particularly those who knew him best as Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter films. Stepping into that role after the death of Richard Harris in 2002, Gambon brought his own interpretation to the beloved character, embodying wisdom, eccentricity, and quiet strength. His passing underscored the reality that the icons who shaped late 20th century British acting were reaching the end of their era, highlighting the ongoing cycle of generational renewal in the arts. The immediate consequence of Gambon's death was both personal and collective. For colleagues, it was the loss of a peer whose generosity and professionalism had shaped rehearsal rooms and film sets. For audiences, it reignited appreciation for his wide-ranging body of work, from Dennis Potter's The Singing Detective to Mike Leigh's Life is Sweet and his Olivier Award-winning stage roles. His death did not shift history's course in a political sense, but it did amplify his legend, particularly among younger generations who may only have known him through Harry Potter, but were inspired to discover the depth of his career. Reflecting on his passing, one sees how mortality frames the value of art. Gambon's death reveals our human need to immortalize great figures, to resist the finality of loss by enshrining their contributions in memory and culture. We preserve him through film, through recordings of his stage work, and through the anecdotes of those who knew him. Humanity's relationship with power and memory is evident here. Power lies not in avoiding death, but in leaving behind a legacy strong enough to echo through time. In commemorating Michael Gambon, we reaffirm art's ability to outlast its maker, reminding us that while lives are finite, their impact can be boundless. Hugh Hefner, the founder of Playboy magazine and one of the most recognizable cultural figures of the 20th century, died on September 27, 2017, at the age of 91. He passed away from natural causes, specifically complications related to a bacterial infection and sepsis at his iconic Playboy mansion in Los Angeles. His death marked the end of an era defined by both glamour and controversy, as Hefner symbolized the sexual revolution of the 1960s, while also provoking debates on morality, freedom, and gender roles. Hefner's passing reflected the generational challenges of his time. In the mid-20th century, Playboy emerged not just as a men's magazine but as a cultural phenomenon, pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable in mainstream media. His philosophy of sexual liberation was intertwined with the era's growing emphasis on personal freedom and resistance to conservative norms. Yet by the time of his death, society was also reckoning with critiques of objectification and the commodification of women, making his legacy more complex. His natural passing at an advanced age illustrated not a tragic end, but the close of a long and provocative chapter in American cultural history. The immediate consequences of his death were global waves of commentary and analysis. To admirers, Hefner was celebrated as a visionary who reshaped popular culture by combining eroticism, lifestyle journalism, and intellectual engagement. Playboy featured interviews with figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and John Lennon. To critics, however, his passing reopened debates about the darker implications of the empire he built. The duality of these responses amplified his legend, positioning him as both a liberator and a controversial provocateur, ensuring that his name would remain central to conversations about freedom of expression and cultural change. Hefner's death reveals much about humanity's relationship with mortality, power, and memory. His life demonstrates how influence can be wielded not only through politics or economics, but through shaping attitudes toward intimacy, entertainment, and lifestyle. In death, he was not simply mourned but dissected, his legacy refracted through evolving cultural values. Humanity immortalizes figures like Hefner through documentaries, biographies, museum exhibits, and the continued influence of the movements they helped inspire. Ultimately, Hefner's departure underscores that mortality does not silence cultural impact. Instead, it prompts society to reinterpret the values and contradictions such figures embodied. By remembering him, we confront both our fascination with liberation and our ongoing struggles with its limits, proving that memory is as much about critique as it is about celebration. Anne Jeffreys, a celebrated American actress and singer, passed away on September 27, 2017, at the age of 94. Her death was due to natural causes, marking the quiet close of a long and graceful life. Unlike many figures in Hollywood whose lives ended in scandal or tragedy, Jeffreys' passing reflected a more dignified departure, one that underscored both her personal resilience and the longevity of her career. Jeffreys rose to prominence in the 1940s with her work in operetta and films, before transitioning successfully to television in the 1950s and beyond. She became best known for her role in the hit sitcom Topper and later in the long-running soap opera General Hospital. The circumstances of her death, peaceful and natural, stood in contrast to the often turbulent narratives of Hollywood stardom. In an era where celebrity culture frequently thrives on youthful brilliance followed by decline, Jeffreys' enduring career embodied stability and adaptability, values that were central to her generation of performers. The immediate consequences of her passing were seen in the heartfelt tributes from colleagues, fans, and institutions across the entertainment industry. She was remembered not only as a glamorous leading lady of the golden age of Hollywood, but also as a professional who successfully reinvented herself in television during the medium's formative years. Her death brought renewed attention to her body of work, inspiring retrospectives that introduced her to younger audiences unfamiliar with the pioneering role she played in shaping mid-century American entertainment. In many ways, Jeffreys' passing amplified her legend. Her longevity allowed her to witness and adapt to the changing landscape of entertainment, from operatic stages to black and white films, to color television, and eventually to streaming age recognition. Her death highlighted how certain figures serve as bridges between cultural eras, reminding us that Hollywood's history is not merely a string of fleeting icons, but also of lasting professionals who sustained the industry through decades of transformation. Ultimately, Anne Jeffreys' death invites reflection on how we commemorate figures whose lives symbolize resilience and artistic dedication rather than scandal. Through obituaries, tributes, and continued access to her performances, she remains alive in cultural memory. Her departure underscores humanity's enduring effort to preserve stories of grace and endurance, demonstrating that in remembering such figures, we craft narratives not only of loss, but of inspiration, stability, and timeless artistry. Phyllis Davis, an American actress best remembered for her role on the hit television series Vega, died on September 27, 2013, at the age of 73. Her death was the result of cancer, a natural yet devastating illness that has claimed countless lives across generations. Unlike figures whose lives ended abruptly through violence or accident, Davis's passing reflected a quieter but deeply human struggle, the long battle against disease. This circumstance resonates with her era's growing awareness of health crises and the importance of medical advances in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. During her career, Davis became known as a glamorous and versatile performer. Appearing not only in Vega dollars but also in a range of television shows and films throughout the 1960s and 1970s, she represented a wave of actresses who brought sophistication and allure to American screens. Her death marked the close of a chapter in Hollywood history, when television was becoming a dominant cultural force, and actors like Davis helped shape its appeal. The immediate consequence of her passing was an outpouring of tributes from fans who remembered her charm and elegance, as well as renewed appreciation for the show that defined her career. Davis's death amplified her legend in subtle ways. For many, she remained a symbol of the stylish television era of the late 1970s, a time when glamour and drama were hallmarks of popular programming. The fact that she was taken by cancer also lent her passing a universality, reminding audiences that even figures celebrated for beauty and vitality are vulnerable to the same frailties as everyone else. In this way, her death bridged the gap between celebrity and audience, reinforcing the shared human experience of mortality. Her story illustrates how society immortalizes such figures. Through reruns of Vega, archived interviews, and the memories of viewers, Davis continues to exist in the cultural imagination. Art and media preserve not only her image, but also the era she represented, a glamorous, fast-paced vision of television that remains nostalgic for many. Ultimately, Phyllis Davis's passing reveals the enduring truth that mortality equalizes us all, no matter how radiant our lives may seem. In commemorating her, we do more than honor an actress. We affirm the power of memory, performance, and storytelling to grant permanence to those whose earthly presence has faded. Clara Bow, the iconic It Girl of the 1920s, passed away on September 27, 1965, at the age of 60. Her death was due to a heart attack, a natural end that belied the vibrant and often turbulent life she had led. Bow's rise to stardom during the silent film era reflected the shifting values of the Roaring Twenties, a period marked by a fascination with youth, glamour, and the new possibilities of celebrity. Her early success, particularly in films like It, captured the spirit of liberation and modernity that defined her generation, while also highlighting the intense pressures placed on women navigating Hollywood's demanding landscape. The immediate aftermath of Bow's passing was tinged with both admiration and melancholy. Once a symbol of the jazz age, her decline in the 1930s, prompted by the advent of talkies, personal health struggles, and mental health challenges, had pushed her out of the public eye. Yet her death rekindled interest in her legacy, reminding audiences of her role in shaping modern concepts of female sexuality, independence, and stardom. Tributes in newspapers and magazines revisited her achievements, portraying her not just as a star of her era, but as an enduring symbol of Hollywood's golden age. Bow's legend was amplified by the contrast between her dazzling youth and later withdrawal from public life. Her trajectory mirrored broader cultural anxieties about fame, gender, and the fleeting nature of public adoration. As such, her passing prompted reflection on the vulnerabilities that underlie even the most luminous lives. In the decades following her death, retrospectives, biographies, and film restorations ensured that Bow's image remained vivid, emphasizing how the preservation of cultural memory allows society to revisit and reinterpret the past. Clara Bow's death illustrates humanity's complex relationship with mortality, fame, and remembrance. Though her body succumbed to natural causes, the myth of the It Girl persists, immortalized through cinema, literature, and the enduring fascination with early Hollywood. Her life and passing remind us that memory, storytelling, and artistic preservation enable figures like Bow to transcend mortality, offering inspiration and reflection for generations long after their physical presence has faded. Her story underscores how society elevates certain individuals not only for their talents, but also for the symbolic resonance they carry across time. Donald O'Connor, the beloved American dancer, singer, and actor, passed away on September 27, 2003, at the age of 76. His death was due to complications from heart failure, a natural but inevitable conclusion to a life marked by relentless energy and artistic innovation. O'Connor's passing reflected both the physical toll of a career built on extraordinary athleticism and the era's admiration for performers who combined talent with tireless dedication. As a star of Hollywood's golden age musicals, he embodied the optimism and exuberance of mid-20th century entertainment, offering audiences an escape during a period of social change and post-war adjustment. The immediate consequences of O'Connor's death were felt deeply within the entertainment industry and among generations of fans. Known for his iconic performance in Singin' in the Rain, 1952, particularly the legendary Make 'em Laugh sequence, O'Connor had become synonymous with joyful performance and precision artistry. His passing prompted tributes that celebrated his contributions to film and television, while also highlighting the challenges of maintaining physical and creative vitality in a profession often unforgiving of aging bodies. O'Connor's death also amplified his legend, preserving his reputation as one of the most gifted song and dance performers in American cinema. Unlike stars whose fame faded with changing tastes, O'Connor's performances remained timeless, continuing to inspire dancers, actors, and audiences decades later. His departure underscored the ephemeral nature of life, contrasted with the enduring power of art. Even as the performer left the stage, his work lived on, immortalized in film archives, retrospective showcases, and popular culture references. Reflecting on O'Connor's life and passing illuminates broader truths about humanity's relationship with mortality, memory, and cultural legacy. While physical life ends, our collective memory sustains those who bring joy, inspiration, or reflection to society. Through recorded performances, commemorations, and the preservation of cinematic history, O'Connor remains a vibrant figure, a testament to how art allows individuals to transcend temporal limits. His story exemplifies the human desire to honor skill, dedication, and the transformative power of creativity, demonstrating that memory and celebration often outlive even the most extraordinary lives, keeping the spirit of legendary performers alive for future generations. Marty Balin, the charismatic co-founder and lead vocalist of the iconic rock band Jefferson Airplane, passed away on September 27, 2018, at the age of 76. His death was the result of complications from a heart attack, a natural but sudden end that punctuated a life defined by creativity, risk, and cultural influence. Balin's passing reflected the broader trajectory of his era. The 1960s and 1970s were decades marked by artistic experimentation, political upheaval, and a desire for personal and collective liberation. His music, particularly hits like Somebody to Love and Volunteers, captured the revolutionary spirit of the time, blending psychedelic innovation with messages of social consciousness. The immediate consequences of Balin's death reverberated through the music world and among fans across generations. Tributes poured in from fellow musicians, critics, and audiences, recognizing his role not only as a voice of Jefferson Airplane, but as a symbol of the counterculture movement. His passing prompted retrospectives that revisited the era's music and activism, highlighting how Balin's work both reflected and influenced social values, from the anti-war sentiment to the embrace of free expression. Balin's death also amplified his legend. The narrative of Jefferson Airplane's rise, its revolutionary ethos, and its impact on rock music became more resonant in hindsight. The sudden loss of a figure so closely associated with a formative cultural moment reminded audiences of the fragility of life and the enduring power of artistic legacy. Unlike artists whose fame diminishes over time, Balin's contributions remained vivid, reinforced by recordings, live performances, and the continued influence of psychedelic rock on contemporary music. Ultimately, Marty Balin's passing underscores humanity's complex relationship with mortality, memory, and cultural preservation. While life is finite, art allows for a form of immortality. Balin's music continues to inspire, educate, and move audiences decades after its creation. Through recordings, documentaries, and public commemorations, society preserves the spirit of influential figures, reminding us that memory and artistic legacy can outlast the physical presence of even the most transformative individuals. In celebrating Balin, we honor both the man and the era he helped define, illustrating how music and culture serve as enduring vessels for collective memory.